Welcome to VTuber Forensics. VTuber Detective Bootcamp. A bit, a bit of a story here. I did this because I noticed an absolute shit ton of detective VTuber models just on Twitter. I'm like, let me just real fast. Like, why forensics? And what's with the subtitle? You may be asking. Simple. In my defense, one detective VTuber, two detective VTuber, three detective VTuber. There's a lot of VTuber detectives. Wow, I see how it is. Anyway, there's a lot. Okay. How many of them do you think know forensics? Probably a decent bit, actually. Anyways, why forensics? It's fun. You'll be able to look at a puddle on the road and figure out what the hell's going on. Looks like my gay reteach. Yeah. Detective shows and murder mysteries become 10 times more interesting and also annoying. I like teaching. You can talk to people like a 5-year-old with dinosaurs, but instead it's about murder. Walk up to your favorite teacher and say, if you die, I'll know exactly how, when, and why. And someone's gotta teach these fucking VTuber detectives forensics. I'm volunteering. What are we starting with? Blood. The fun stuff. What? Why blood? Murder. I love murder, man. People, you'll be great here. Why blood? Because when I first got taught this, I got taught like basic legal and history stuff, like Francis Galton, ancient Chinese fingerprint stuff. Unless you want me going that far back to be talking about basic forensic stuff, we're doing blood because it's when things start becoming more practical. I'll fill you in. Hey, sick. Scuffed? What do you mean scuffed? But, anyways, what is blood? Baby, don't haunt me. Don't haunt me no more. Blood is the main liquid inside most humans. Except if you saw your mother last night, you may beg to differ. There is a different liquid if you catch my drift. 3 main types of cells. Yes, this is an actual biology lesson now. Pay attention. Red blood cell, white blood cell, platelets. We only care about red for now. Platelets is clot, white blood cells fight. Thank you, Slide. I know. Red cells in death. Ooh, stream is being clunky. Platelets. Hey, to be fair, platelets are interesting. I'll talk more on like the after school bomb, okay? Red cells in death. They act as the messenger and the delivery driver for the body. Anything you need sent around goes there. Muscles that need oxygen, blood. Me needing fucking caffeine, blood. Thank you. 55% liquid, 25 other stuff. It's viscous for a reason. It's actually and there's antibodies in the liquid portion of it. This will be important later. Don't take notes though, because you don't need them. And anyways, it's viscous, but one fun thing is, as blood actually gets expelled fast, it becomes more like a liquid. It's called a mistin. The red blood cell itself has antigens built into it later. I do not get confused. Hey, sick. We're gonna deal with that later. Important later. This is the important later. Antigens react with antibodies. Think about it like this. You have a cold, right? You take like medicine. The medicine is anti-cold, like antibacterial. Anti reacts with whatever the trying to think of the best way to phrase this. With whatever is in the second part of the title. Antibodies aren't called that in the blood itself. They're called like anti-A, anti-B antibodies, all that stuff. They react with the different antigens on the blood cell. It's like a hook system. But when they react, they clump together. The antigens present dictate what blood type it is. If antigens are present, it's type A, B present, type B, none, type O. However, there's also a secret third type I'm not talking about, that's RH. aka positive, negative. It's the same principle as this, just it can apply to any one of these. And that dictates it's A positive, B negative, O negative, all of that stuff. You can tell which blood type by knowing which antibodies are missing. This is why AB negative, I think it's like AB positive, they can receive literally any blood type in existence. Because the blood doesn't fucking care. Like, they can literally take anything. You know, O negative, they can literally redonate to anyone because their blood cells are completely round. For the nods. For the nods now. This property is class evidence, which means that you can't actually nail blood type down to one specific person. Not saying that it's impossible, just saying you can only cut down the number of suspects, you can't isolate one. You can't get new suspects because of blood type, so I'm getting at. Nowadays, we use mostly DNA testing because, well, DNA can be tied to one person exactly. Blood type, there's only about like 16 of them. DNA, there's about 8 billion. The fun stuff, tests, the actual forensics part of the blood. We don't want to get into the fun stuff now. I kind of speedran the biology part. Anyways, the fun stuff, presumatory. Is it blood? Happens more often than you think. And a fun fact, the Kastle-Meyer-Briggs test, which is used to test from hemoglobin, which tests for blood, actually goes off with potatoes and horseradishes. That's a risk most forensic scientists take because you're not gonna fucking run into potatoes and horseradishes at a crime scene. Confirmatory, is it human blood? There's actually a fun procedure for how they test this. It involves a rabbit. So what they basically do is, they get a sample of the blood they want to test, right? And the thing is, bad transfusions happen because antibodies are created to the new blood type that is injected. So what we do is we basically abuse it by taking human blood and injecting it into a fucking animal. And then seeing what antibodies come up and analyzing them. If they match the human antibodies, we know it is human blood. We have also stabbed a rabbit 3 different times. We also have antibody tests like dogs, horses, and ones of like other random animals that usually around the house, and blood typing and enzyme testing. Whose blood is this? Enzyme testing is a lot more precise. Blood typing you get generalized. Blood spatter, not splatter. I am speedrunning this. Pay attention. Blood spatter is basically how the blood is organized on the crime scene itself. If you see a shit ton of blood on the wall, that's blood spatter. If you see a shit ton of blood just poured on the ground, that's a crime scene. Also blood spatter. And if you see a shit ton of white substances around, that was your mother last night. Anyways, it's spatter, not splatter. Splatter is the noun. Splatter's the verb, spatter's the noun. You splatter spatter, basically. 2 parts to it, droplets, satellites. Droplets usually the ones to stay in the area, and satellites pop off of the droplet. The droplet's also called parent stain, not gonna deal with that later. We can figure out a lot of different things about droplets. From droplets, angle of impact of the blood droplet, velocity of impact, height of impact, direction of impact, and the weapon type used. Think D&D stuff, bludgeoning, pierce, and slashing. We can figure that out purely with just blood alone. How? Shape and size! I've been saying that. Anyways, angle of impact. There's no blood that's actually going to be shown here. I am just going to approximate. Purely because I do not want to make anyone too uncomfortable. Angle of impact can be figured out using basic math. It's triggered the core. You're both within length. We don't care about the satellites. It involves inverse sine. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. Basically, the way inverse sine works is that you have the ratio, so you can just use that to find the angle. Or you can just approximate. The closer to a circle the droplet is, the closer to 90. Which means basically that it was just dropped flat down onto the surface. And this is about the rough approximations for these 3 circles. I approximated. I don't actually know what it would be. I'm not bothering to figure it out, not gonna lie. Velocity of impact. This is where things get complicated, so I'm gonna try and keep things simple. It's determined by the size of the droplets, the number of droplets, number of satellites. 3 types: low, medium, and high impact. You can probably guess what those 3 types mean. Low impact spatter. This is usually by blunt objects and beatings, found most often on domestic assault cases and abuse. If you have a bloody nose because someone punched you, that'd be low impact spatter. Notice that the blood droplets are right next to each other, no satellites, and they're pretty large, all things considered. We consider large about 4 millimeters in diameter. Most of the time, blunt object categories are gonna be here. Medium impact spatter. I can't really represent it that well. Usually a sign of stabbing and or slashing. That's the rough speed you can read. They're medium and they're in between basically low and high impact. They're not misted like high impact spatter is, but they're not clumped together like low impact. Most of the time, if the person has a weapon that can slash, this is gonna be the type of spatter you find at the scene. High impact spatter. I cannot represent this well given current technology. Usually only gunshots and explosions. If you get shot by an 18th century cannon, you're gonna be high impact spatter. Individual droplets are tiny and it's hard to tell what's a droplet or a satellite. Blood actually does an interesting thing here though, where it miss, basically. Height of impact. This one is directly proportional to the diameter of a droplet. Due to the shut. No, not yet. Every proportional diameter of a droplet. Think about it. As you drop anything, surface tension and air pressure is gonna cause it to flatten out as it falls already. Hitting the ground is just it embedded into that shape. So the higher something drops, the larger it'll be. We use law of tangent to find that out. I didn't actually fucking learn that in class, so we're not lying about that. Direction of impact and how the victim moved. This is the fun part. So, direction of impact and how the victim moved. The tail of the droplet will always go in the direction of the thrust and or the movement of the person. So say hypothetically someone pisses me off because they scuff my shoes. I whip out my hammer that I just keep in my back pocket and smack them as hard as possible in the back of the head. Blood is going to come out at the direction of impact, and there's also going to be a bit of back spatter that falls onto me because of it. And so the blood points that I hit him this way. So if you see any piece of media, this is my biggest pet peeve when it comes to blood spatter and media and all that stuff. People get the direction confused. They think just because blood comes out of an open wound, it will have more blood coming out backwards than forwards. No, if I slash you this way, more blood will be that way than this way. Stop having it point that way. This one went left to right. For instance, I saw an image the other day where it's one of those fucking you have to look twice to figure out what's going on with this. It's a guy laying down some train tracks. The train hit him going this way. The blood spatter went like this. I'm just no, that is not how that works. And it was weapon use, weapon type use. Can we find out using everything we want so far? Velocity, blunt, sharp, or a gun, angle, direction, determine how the victim was hit, what they did after they hit, and everything else. You can basically just ID the victim and any potential suspects. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. We'll probably do this again. That's basically everything related to blood spatter I could think of in one go. But like, I'll probably go into another fucking rant about forensics at one point or the other. This is a very interesting field for me to talk about. So like, any questions right now? Any questions? I'll try my best to answer them. If not, I'll just talk about like some different types of spatter I didn't talk about because they're either too niche to really bring up or they're very difficult to get an example of. Waiting for any questions to come in. Alright. My microphone, please. Thank you. Okay. Anyways, I tried teaching this as best as I can. I speed ran that basically, so I'm willing to go back over the slides and then just explain anything in more detail that I might have done badly. Because I didn't really mention any too specific like strategies or tests. And like my whole goal of doing this was basically make it as accessible to a first-time viewer as I physically could. Because I think the biggest issue of science and all that stuff is they use very obtuse terminology to describe common things. Like, oh no, it's not the immune cells fighting the intruder. It's an immune response by B cells and helper T cells. So what I'm doing is basically trying to make it as beginner-friendly as I can. However, I do have to sacrifice some nuance, which I'm willing to go over on, basically. Although I did decide to do forensics because, well, I like forensics a lot. It's one of my favorite fucking units favorite subjects. Purely because it's the only subject I can think of that's a combination of every other common core subject in existence, basically. Because the way forensics is, you use math, you use science, and you also use history and certain aspects of law and all that stuff, like chain of custody. Use all of that above to basically teach forensics. Although I probably will just be chatting for a good bit now. Until, like, whenever a person joins, I will go over the PowerPoint yet again. So, clench your ass cheeks and pray that doesn't come to that. Ugh. And also, I decided to start with blood because, honestly, that was the first real unit I got taught that wasn't just the history of forensics and just talking about who done what, who discovered what from like forensics and all that stuff, and also like crime scene procedure. Like, it makes it seem like I was a beat cop before this. I promise you, I wasn't. But like, I just chose blood because another reason why is that it's one of the most commonly encountered elements of forensics, just day to day, as well as if you ever go to like an actual crime scene. It's like every single crime I can think of that requires a forensics team will require blood analysis at one point or the other. By me going over it first, I'm basically going over the most common traits. I plan on going down through the least common traits next. Which, if I have to say, there's a couple units I want to cover outside of just like basic history stuff. Let's see, I'm just gonna start reading out, link out in chat basically if you're interested in me talking about any of this stuff. Because I am looking at chat very frequently right now. I have a virtual textbook in front of me right now. I am a fucking nod. Okay. I don't need a textbook. Basically, the units I can go over would be, blood typing, already did that. DNA, that is very difficult to actually explain without using scientific terminology and all of that. And then there's document examination, which is actually pretty fun, but it's very niche. It's a lot of handwriting analysis, which requires a decent bit of practice where you get good at it. And then there's, are you still teaching this stuff? I'm going over, I've stopped teaching it. I'm now just going over it, just casually. I'm done teaching unless you want me to. I'm just talking about it now. This is the forensics stream, pal. Don't know what you expected. Yeah, I'm fucking with you. And this the karaoke stream? Right now, if I feel like it. Can't really think of any songs I want to karaoke that wouldn't get me copyright stricken immediately. Ugh. But, I'm just gonna keep rambling about forensics for a hot second, because, this document examination, which is very niche, toxicology, which is the analysis of drugs and alcohol, basically.